The photographs began circulating in late August 2025, and within hours, the internet erupted into chaos. Dark, mysterious bruises covering the president's hands. A conspicuous absence from public events. Cryptic White House schedules that raised more questions than they answered. Then came the silence that shattered America's collective calm. For 6 days, Donald Trump, a man who had never met a camera he didn't love, who thrived on constant media attention, vanished from the public eye. No rallies, no impromptu press conferences, no late-night social media storms. Just eerie, deafening silence from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The void left by his absence became a breeding ground for wild theories, desperate speculation, and a digital frenzy that would consume millions. Trump is dead began trending on social media platforms worldwide. Self-proclaimed psychics gained hundreds of thousands of followers overnight, predicting exact dates of doom. Doctored images spread like wildfire across Reddit and Twitter, each more disturbing than the last. Even Vice President JD Vance's seemingly routine statement about being ready to become president sent shockwaves through an already paranoid nation. But this wasn't just another conspiracy theory born in the dark corners of the internet. This was different. This time, there were medical records, physician statements about chronic conditions, and unexplained visual evidence that couldn't be easily dismissed. The bruising was real. The absence was real. The questions multiplying by the hour were terrifyingly real. What really happened during those 6 mysterious days in August? Why did the most transparent president in modern history suddenly become a ghost? And when he finally reappeared in the Oval Office for what many called a proof-of-life appearance, why did more questions emerge than answers? Tonight, we're diving deep into the medical mystery that has America holding its breath, examining the evidence that mainstream media won't touch, and uncovering truths that will shock you to your core. Before we reveal what our investigation uncovered, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. What we're about to share will change how you see everything unfolding in Washington, and you won't want to miss a single update as this story continues to develop. The story begins not with a dramatic August disappearance, but months earlier, when subtle signs began emerging that something was fundamentally wrong with the president's health. Medical experts we consulted point to a pattern of concerning symptoms that the administration worked desperately to conceal from public view. In July 2025, the White House made an unusual disclosure about Trump's medical condition. They announced he had been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a condition where veins in the legs struggle to pump blood back to the heart effectively. Dr. Sean Barbabella, Trump's personal physician, described it as benign and common among people over 70. But medical professionals outside the White House weren't buying this sanitized explanation. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a cardiovascular specialist at Johns Hopkins who has studied presidential health disclosures for 2 decades, told us something chilling during our off-the-record conversation. Chronic venous insufficiency doesn't just appear overnight, and it certainly doesn't explain the constellation of symptoms that began manifesting throughout the summer of 2025. The condition typically develops gradually over years, yet the White House presented it as if it were a recent discovery. What they didn't tell the American people was far more alarming than what they revealed. Sources close to the White House medical team, speaking on condition of anonymity, described a president who had been experiencing episodes of what they termed cognitive fluctuation. These weren't the typical senior moments that any person approaching 80 might experience. These were periods where Trump would lose track of conversations mid-sentence, forget the names of longtime advisors, and display confusion about basic procedural matters he had handled effortlessly for years. The visual evidence that sparked the August crisis began appearing gradually throughout July. Photographers with telephoto lenses started capturing images of Trump's hands that showed unusual discoloration. Initially dismissed as shadows or photographic artifacts, these dark patches grew more pronounced and widespread as weeks passed. By early August, the bruising was impossible to hide. Even with carefully staged photo opportunities and strategic hand positioning, but the bruising pattern told a story that medical experts found deeply troubling. Unlike typical age-related bruising, which appears randomly across the body, Trump's discoloration followed specific patterns consistent with certain medical interventions. Hematologists we consulted suggested the bruising indicated possible issues with blood clotting, medication side effects, or more serious underlying conditions that the White House wasn't acknowledging. The breaking point came during the week of August 24th, when Trump was scheduled to appear at 3 separate public events. First, a routine economic briefing was quietly canceled with no explanation. Then, a planned photo opportunity with visiting foreign dignitaries was abruptly moved to a closed-door meeting with no media access. Finally, what should have been a triumphant rally in Ohio was postponed indefinitely, with organizers citing scheduling conflicts. Behind the scenes, sources describe a White House in crisis mode. Senior staff members were reportedly receiving contradictory information about the president's condition from different medical advisors. Some were told he was experiencing a temporary setback that would resolve quickly. Others heard whispers of more serious complications that could have long-term implications for his presidency. Situation reached a fever pitch when Vice President JD Vance made his now infamous statement about being prepared to assume presidential duties if necessary. While his spokesperson later claimed this was routine constitutional language, the timing sent shockwaves through political circles. Vance had never before made such public statements about presidential succession, and his choice to do so during Trump's mysterious absence raised immediate red flags. Social media exploded with theories ranging from plausible to absolutely bizarre. Some users shared legitimate concerns about the president's visible health decline. Others promoted wild conspiracy theories involving body doubles, staged deaths, and elaborate cover-ups. The phrase "Trump is dead" trended globally for 3 consecutive days, with millions of posts demanding proof of life from the president. What made this social media storm particularly dangerous was its intersection with legitimate journalistic inquiry. Respected news organizations began asking serious questions about presidential transparency and the public's right to know about their leader's health. The line between conspiracy theory and legitimate investigation became increasingly blurred as days passed without any substantial communication from the White House. The administration's response strategy during this crisis revealed the depth of their concern. Rather than their usual approach of dismissing critics and attacking media coverage, they remained almost entirely silent. Press secretary responses became limited to brief, scripted statements that provided no real information. This uncharacteristic restraint from an uncharacteristic restraint from an asteristic restraint from an Haman administration known for aggressive pushback suggested they were dealing with something far more serious than typical political controversy. Medical privacy laws protect presidents just like any other citizen, but the unique nature of the presidency creates tension between personal privacy and public accountability. When a president's health potentially affects their ability to fulfill constitutional duties, the American people have a legitimate interest in understanding the situation. The Trump administration's extreme secrecy during this period raised valid questions about where that balance should lie. The mystery deepened when images surfaced of what appeared to be recent medical equipment deliveries to the White House residence. While these deliveries weren't necessarily unusual, Their timing during Trump's absence created additional speculation about the severity of his condition. Equipment that sources identified as potentially including cardiac monitoring devices and other serious medical apparatus suggested this wasn't merely a case of routine health care maintenance. International implications of the health mystery cannot be overlooked. Foreign governments were reportedly seeking clarification about the American president's condition through diplomatic channels. Questions about presidential capacity during this period could have had serious consequences for ongoing international negotiations in America's global standing. The fact that such inquiries were being made at all demonstrates how widespread concern had become about Trump's actual condition. When Trump finally reappeared in the Oval Office on September 2nd for what many observers called a proof of life appearance, the questions only multiplied. While he appeared alert and engaged during the televised portion of the meeting, careful observers noted several concerning details. His hand movements seemed more limited than usual, potentially indicating ongoing discomfort or restricted mobility. His speech patterns, while coherent, showed subtle changes that speech pathologists we consulted found noteworthy. The choice of setting for his return was also significant. Rather than the dynamic high-energy environment of a rally or press conference, Trump appeared in the controlled setting of the Oval Office with carefully selected participants and limited media access. This suggested his medical team may have had ongoing concerns about his ability to handle more demanding public appearances. Perhaps most tellingly, the health mystery has continued even after Trump's public reappearance. While the immediate crisis appears to have passed, questions about his long-term condition remain unanswered. The White House continues to provide minimal information about his medical status, follow-up treatments, or any ongoing limitations his condition might impose on his presidential duties. Medical experts emphasize that many conditions affecting older adults can be successfully managed with proper treatment, but they require ongoing monitoring and potential lifestyle modifications. The chronic venous insufficiency diagnosis, while potentially manageable, could be indicative of broader cardiovascular issues that might affect stamina, cognitive function, or overall health stability. The broader implications of this health mystery extend far beyond medical concerns. It highlights critical questions about presidential transparency, the role of medical privacy in public office, and the responsibility of media and citizens to seek accountability from their elected leaders. The explosion of conspiracy theories during Trump's absence demonstrates how quickly information vacuums can be filled with dangerous speculation in our current media environment. Looking forward, this incident has set important precedents for how health crises involving sitting presidents might be handled in the digital age. The speed with which rumors spread and the global reach of speculation about Trump's condition show how different such situations have become compared to health issues affecting previous presidents and pre-social media eras. The Trump health mystery of August 2025 may never be fully explained to public satisfaction, but its impact on American political discourse and presidential accountability standards will likely persist long after the immediate concerns have faded. It serves as a stark reminder of the unique vulnerabilities and responsibilities that come with holding the highest office in the land.